What's up, everybody? How you all doing? We're back with another one. Today we're checking out Resident Evil 9 Requiem, the first gameplay impressions, camera, combat, boss fight, and more. This comes from the Residents of Evil YouTube channel, so make sure you go over there, give them a like, a share, subscribe, and all the good stuff. The link to the original video will be in the description box below. I need to stop doing this with my hand. I only do that because I don't know what else to do with my hands. But okay. I must say that this video is about 52 minutes long, so I won't be like pausing as much. I'll only pause and speak when I feel that there's something that I need to want to point out and discuss and question or anything like that. So anyway, I don't want to no long intros. Let's just get on with it. Let's go. Oh.
Hey guys, JJ here, and today we have our first impressions on Resident Evil 9 Requiem gameplay that was shown exclusively to press, including the camera perspective, gameplay mechanics, the shackled boss creature, and much more. So with that being said, let's get right into it.
Right, so they must have only just found out this information, or the Resident of Evil. That's JJ. Must have had. Oh, hang on. Just before I go any further, I just need to get rid of something quickly. Sorry about this. Oh, don't worry, I'll edit that bit out. But I think I don't know how. So JJ from Residents of Evil probably found out some more inside information about what he wants to show us. So let's go.
All right, guys, we have Alex and Neil here, the writer of Itchy Tasty, an unofficial history of Resident Evil. He's joining us, and he just got to go to Summer Game Fest to see behind closed doors demo gameplay of Resident Evil 9 Requiem. Alex, thank you for joining me, man.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me again.
I like JJ's shirt right there, that Resident Evil shirt. That looks cool.
Yeah, and I've got so many questions. But you got to see actual gameplay.
And I have many answers. So yeah, let's get this conversation going.
That's what we want. We want answers. We want answers. That's what we want. We've got so many questions and zero answers. So if he's got some answers to share with us, brilliant.
Perfect. I'm sure everybody is looking forward to it. So let's just start off. I want you to take me through the experience, and then when they did show the gameplay, all the details, just everything you remember, your first impressions, anything that stood out to you, and just everything in general, I guess.
So for most people, the demo they showed was not playable. It was actually a pre-recorded video of somebody else playing a specific segment of
Do you know what? I expected that. So that doesn't come as a shock.
Resident Evil Requiem. So about the demo, Capcom mentioned that the demo itself was running on PlayStation 5 Pro hardware. I think that's the most powerful console today that can run the game.
What? So you can't play it on ordinary PS5? Are you fucking kidding me? You're saying it can only be played on the PlayStation Pro? I hope that's not what you're saying, because that's going to piss a lot of people off.
One of the major slogans for this kind of game would be so-called addicting fear, or addictive fear, I think. And basically, as Capcom and the director of Requiem, Koshi Nakanishi, explained in the video, Resident Evil Requiem would be quite a frightening and terrifying experience. But it would be frightening and terrifying in a way where players would come back wanting more. So in that sense, it's called, or they dub it as, addicting fear. So I think that really sets the tone for what to expect from at least what they're trying to show with this demo. It's gonna focus a lot on scares and things that really make players feel fearful, but also entertained.
No, but I've never. No, you said that about Resident Evil 7 being the scariest Resident Evil 7. Being Resident Evil 7, they said that was supposed to be the scariest Resident Evil game, and I didn't see it. I didn't think it was scary at all. Did you? Let me know in the comments down below.
To the extent that they just want to keep coming back for more. So the trailer, the gameplay trailer, non-playable, just to emphasize. So I did not play the game myself, but I had a front row seat to the video in the theater room. It was about maybe 15 minutes long, and it took place in one specific level in the game, which is a hospital.
Oh.
The trailer starts off with a cutscene, part of which that we saw from the game's unveiling trailer, reveal trailer at Summer Game Fest Showcase. So it's Grace. She wakes up all sweaty, all frazzled, feeling very frantic. And it turns out that she's been kidnapped and strapped onto a hospital gurney. It's dark, and the hospital is very much abandoned. When she comes to, she realizes that she's on this hospital gurney, and then she's actually connected. Like I think her arm is connected to a tube that collects blood from her. So like she's drawing blood, little drops of blood through a tube that's being fed into this glass bottle that's being suspended by, like, it's being held up by a movable hospital stand, I guess you call it. Like you see a lot of these, like when you're
it's like a drip
doing IVs, for example.
Yeah, a drip.
So very similar to that. So Grace realizes her blood's being drawn. She's strapped down to a gurney, but nobody's around, and so she attempts to escape by using her body's force to basically turn the gurney onto its side, so she falls off. She's strapped on by her ankles, I believe, and
her hands and her ankles.
I think her chest as well. Ankles.
Oh, man.
But once she's able to turn the gurney over, the glass bottle that's been collecting samples of her blood
breaks
and shatters, and it shatters into like two pieces basically, and she takes half the bottle which has a sharp edge now, and she's able to use that as a blade to break free from
as a shiv, yeah.
You know, to break free from the gurney and being strapped in. And then after this cutscene, the gameplay begins, and it is in first person.
Oh,
so Resident Evil Requiem is playable in first person, similar to Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil Village.
Is that just her part? Is it just her part, or is that the whole game? That's the question.
And I think, based on what I was watching, the general field of view, very similar to Resident Evil 7.
Do you know what? That didn't surprise me, because that was the same director on this game as it was on RE7, and that was first person. Damn it. But, you know, just because it's first person doesn't mean it's not going to be enjoyable. So there's that.
Very, like, the hospital is obviously like a contained environment with narrow hallways and a lot of furniture and things to explore. This part of the gameplay is very much similar to how we played Resident Evil 7.
Wow.
Which to me is not a coincidence, because 7 and Requiem director. So I think there's a
yeah, that's exactly what I say.
stylistic tendency to kind of gravitate toward focused exploration we previously saw with both Resident Evil 7 and the original Revelations, which Fanishi also directed. So we're now in
Revelations. Resident Evil Revelations was third person.
First person. Officially, this is where Grace is playable, and you can move her around. You can, like with Ethan in Resident Evil 7, you can explore the room. You can find objects to interact with, pick up items. And immediately, once the gameplay demo started, I realized just
Mind you, this is only the demo, and this is only the hospital portion of the game. It's not the whole game, so there could be the maybe Grace's segment is a first person, and then the rest of the game may be like third person. Well, but like I say, this guy is only talking about just the demo and just this one portion of the game. He's not talking about the rest of the game. It's just only this one portion of the game, like in the hospital with Grace. So just bear that in mind.
just how much more detailed the game looks compared to the previous two Resident Evil games. And the hospital is abandoned and dark. And so it's a bit of a gray tone kind of look, but also very dark. And
Well, yeah, that's where you get, you've got to create some atmosphere. But this guy's audio is terrible. But why I decided to record this and to have this interview with JJ, in his car, he should have waited until we got home and then then get in front of his computer and then conducted this interview. It would have been a lot better because his audio would have been better and we could actually hear what he's saying a little bit better. Hear what he's saying better because he's just a bit all over the place. But
anywhere where there's a light source, that's really where my focus was turning to when observing the environment.
By the way, I'm not going to react to the whole video because it's 52 minutes long and I ain't got the time to sit here for almost an hour.
And I think I mentioned earlier that the demo is running on a PlayStation 5 Pro. I'm not a big technical expert, to be honest, but I think there's a lot of ray tracing going on in the game, and I think that's going to.
Yeah, but I think just because the person who showed you the gameplay and the trailer was using the PlayStation 5 Pro doesn't necessarily mean it's only playable on the Pro. Do you know what I mean? It's just that just happened to be the console that the person who's showcasing the demo to this guy. Do you know what I mean? Because it'd be pointless just put it out just for the PlayStation, like on PlayStation Pro, the PlayStation 5 Pro. I know it's on the Xbox and Steam and stuff, but it's going to be playable on original, the original, say PS5, Xbox, and so on, and Steam. But it won't be. What I know is it's not going to be on PS4 and Xbox One. The last gen cons. It's going to be like current gens and stuff like that. But that's
to feed into the game's visual flair in a very significant way. Because it's so dark, like whatever little light sources might still be working in the hospital, that becomes a focal point in the exploration. So yeah, Grace wakes up in the hospital room as she's broken free. And then this is where she starts exploring. She eventually exits the room into a T-shaped hall. If you write the letter T, she's emerging into the part of the hall where halfway through she can turn right and explore the rest of the hall. It's very dark. It's raining outside, so you can hear
yes, classic. We love it raining in Resident Evil. Classic
rain past the windows of the hall. It's evening, and in the perpendicular area of the hall, like it's dominated by red. I guess they're emergency lights. But overall, it's very dark. It's a gray, blue, dark kind of hue. And I think this is the Wrenwood Hospital that we briefly heard about in the trailer. The lights are flickering, and then while Grace is exploring the hallway, she realizes that there is a gigantic hole in the ceiling that she's not really sure what caused, what created this hole, basically. Mm, they're really going for that
Well, that'd be obvious because if you remember from Resident Evil, the end of Resident Evil 3, I'm going by the remake because that is now more canon than the OGs. But yeah, I mean, because that Renwood, the Renwood Hospital, was in the middle of Raccoon City. So, and Raccoon City got hit with a thermobaric missile bomb, and which is not nuclear, by the way. So that's why it can still be accessible. Because if it was nuclear, then obviously it wouldn't because of radiation, and you get radiation poisoning, and it'd be an exclusion zone like it wasn't like Chernobyl, but when that reactor went up. But as the bomb that hit Raccoon City was a thermobaric missile, and which is non-nuclear. So that's what Resident Evil. So therefore, Raccoon City can still be accessible. People, you can still walk through it. You can still and have no issues. But it'd be very pretty barren, very devastated. But that the hospital be. I'm surprised to see that the hospital what they showed us in the trailer and what have you is that. Is the fact that it was still in one piece. It didn't look damaged really at all by anything. So that's a little bit inconsistent because the Renwood Hospital, like I just said, is in the heart of Raccoon City. So yeah, okay.
Ethan style, frazzled, frantic kind of behavior. From Grace. She's often breathing and panting and
shit in her pants, basically.
Really, really unsure of what's going on.
Now that I use Monday service, AI makes solving tickets my form.
Could have done without that advert. I won't pay for YouTube.
So eventually, she explores another room. I think it's if I remember correctly, it's a hospital, either an office or a storeroom of some sort. And in classic Resident Evil Revelations, Resident Evil 7 fashion, you need to find a fuse that has been removed from a...
Yeah, so you need to find a fuse. That is classic in Resident Evil. And I do hope that you have to find a crank at some point, because I don't think people really realize just how iconic the items that you collect, to help solve your puzzles and help you get further to open stuff. The crank, the Resident Evil classic crank, has got to be there. At some point, you have to use a crank. Otherwise, it's not a Resident Evil game. If it ain't got a crank in it, it's not Resident Evil. I'm sorry, but it's just not. I don't care. I don't care if it says it in the title. If it ain't got a crank in it, it's not Resident Evil. Simple.
Circuit breaker. And you have to find a fuse to restore power to this part of the hospital. So eventually she continues exploring the hospital, and one of the objects that she picks up is an empty bottle. And at this point, this is...
You ain't got to deal with Plan 42 by any chance. It'd do the G-Vault. If you played the original Resident Evils, you know what I mean.
First or potentially second time, Grace, or the player controlling Grace, opens the inventory screen. And the inventory screen is taken from Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. So you've got the four squares, and I think there's 4 rows of it. I think every object that she was
So when it says Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, is that that'd be like the remake inventory. So I just love the old school the OG inventory screen with you open it up and it's got the blue screen and it's got all your items and your picture, your health condition, and whatnot, filed lighter, and and the weapon you have selected. I want that. I want to get back. I want that again. That's what I want. But okay.
was holding was one block each, one square or one block each. I imagine that there will be other items later in the game that might take up more slots. So they're going with the RE2, RE3 style inventory system. I believe the menu is not in real time. I think, like RE2, you pause the game when accessing the inventory screen. But I would want to see the game again just to, clarify that 100%. Grace ends up acquiring an empty bottle, and she can actually use that as a weapon. So she would, she could throw it actually if she equips it.
So in other words, Grace character to be like Ashley in RE4.
And throw it at an enemy if she encounters it. She also finds a flashlight. I'm sorry, not a flashlight, a lighter. So similar to the lighters that we've seen throughout the Resident Evil series, and she uses this lighter as a light source. So it's very similar to what Claire was doing in Code Veronica, like illuminating the dark rooms with the lighter. And I think this is another use of the game's lighting system. I think there was a lot of ray tracing going on in these sequences. And then
do you know what would be better? Did they show us anything? That's what I want to know. I don't think they actually but they're not going to show us anything. Like, if he's telling us all of this, surely they can actually show us something. Do you know what I mean?
She eventually finds a chemical lab where
But that's just classic, isn't it? There's bound to be a lab. Of course there's a lab. It's Resident Evil. There's always a laboratory. There's always main surface, like ground level. There's a basement, a sewer, and a lab. Do you know what I mean? Those are the three stages that Resident Evil goes in.
Eventually finds a chemical lab where he ends up opening this closet door in the back of the lab, and then a doctor's corpse, falls out of the room, and it looks like it's been mangled.
Classic.
By another creature. It also looks like it might be infected with something.
Well, yeah.
And then once she examines the zombie corpse's body, it's when a creature emerges from another hole in the ceiling. And this enemy, it's not named specifically, but I think it's the enemy.
It's called Hugo Boss. Sorry, I couldn't resist. It's called Hugo Boss.
That appears in the last frame of the reveal trailer.
Okay.
I think a lot of people were speculating that it could be Lisa Trevor, but I'm not convinced that it is. Once you see the monster's full model in the game, I don't really think they look that similar.
Is it Big Willie Birkin? Maybe Big Willie Birkin in RE2. Maybe it didn't actually die. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it was just playing possum. Maybe it was just plain dead. And actually, with Big Willie Big Willie Birkin, Big Willie B, maybe he actually managed to escape, and maybe he didn't blow up, on a train, on the B scenario of RE2. Maybe he actually did survive. You know, because it was a strong motherfucker. Well, let's be honest. Big Willie B was it was a tough old I can't even get my words out today. What's going on? Big Willie B was a tough mother mofo. Let's go.
It's a hunched back creature with gigantic teeth.
Yeah.
And it has really large feet, like really large, honestly, like dinosaur T-Rex style, like clawy feet.
Yeah, I get it. It's got fucking club feet. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's got a giant eyeball. It's got giant eyeballs because the eyeball on the monsters, that's iconic in Resident Evil. That's a Resident Evil thing. That the eyeballs. Resident Evil loved their eyeballs.
And it's quite tall. Like it's so tall that it's hunchback because it can't actually like,
Hunchback
it's
from
taller
Notre
than
Dame.
the height of the room and the ceiling itself. And this monster, it becomes at least this level's like stalker enemy. And obviously, Grace is very defenseless against it.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's only got a lighter.
To run away from it.
Well, yeah, of course, Grace is going to be defenseless. She's only got a lighter and a bottle. What's she going to do with that?
But there is one scene where the monster actually takes a huge bite out of her shoulder. I think she sustains damage in real-time gameplay, once she is eaten by it. So in order to restore health, she actually, at some point, because the footage cuts between different gameplay sequences, it's not like
use a
one
syringe.
straight shot from beginning to end. She finds a medical injection similar to what Chris was using in Village. So you can heal yourself by injecting yourself with that. I don't know what you call it, that medicine or whatever.
Yeah.
So we've got the RE Village Chris healing items in the game. Or I think they were also in RE7, right? In Chris's...
Yeah.
I wanted a boo-boo bush. The green herb. That's what a boo-boo bush is. They want the green herb, the boo-boo bush. That's so iconic. The boo-boo bush. Not these injections. I mean, Resident Evil 6 had the worst. Health system thing. Like you pick up these herbs and then it turns into tablets and then you take it. When you combine these other like medicine stuff, and that was shit. That was absolutely fucking god awful. And the inventory system on RE6 was fucking dreadful. It was a piece of fucking pile of crap. Right? No wonder people hated Resident Evil 6. But come on, you can't get rid of the fucking Bobo Bush. Come on, that is iconic. That is Resident Evil. Oh, I'm a bit disappointed by that, but
I think they were like steroids. Yeah, they had steroids.
Steroids, exactly.
Like adrenaline.
That's what it was.
Like adrenaline shots.
I know our odds.
And so during gameplay, this creature will jump into the holes in the ceiling and kind of stalk Grace from behind those from the, I guess she ends up on different floors or whatever, but she's being
so Grace is being pursued through either the walls, the ceiling, and wherever. That's what it sounds like it's about to say right there.
Chased and so she needs to hide. She needs to run around the hospital hiding from it until it goes away. There's one segment where she attempts to hide in. I think it was like a waiting room or like a doctor's consultation room. There's like a closet in there. I think she attempts to hide in it. This entire time, she's still holding the lighter, by the way. Imagine that this sequence is very stalkery.
That lighter is going to be fucking hot as fuck. How can you hold a lighter for that long without burning your fingers? Just say.
Grace probably has to survive for an indeterminate amount of time before finding the right item in order to escape.
Yeah.
So eventually the footage cuts to another room. Grace has apparently escaped
I wish you could show us
the
what you.
monster for the time being. And she looks up. Remember, this is still in first person.
Do you know what? I just wish that they would be able to show us all of this rather than just having to sit here and listen to this guy describing it. Do you know what I mean? That would have been a lot better. It's been a much better vid, to be honest with you. Like this video is already half an hour already. Yeah.
She looks up. She finds a toolbox on top of the shelf. She also, at some point, finds the fuse that she needs locked behind a glass container mounted onto a wall that needs to be opened with a screwdriver. So,
but she ain't got a screwdriver, so
she
you have to
sees the
look for a
toolbox.
screwdriver.
As soon as I see that, I whisper to the person sitting next to me that the screwdriver's in there. The screwdriver is definitely in there. So Grace acquires the screwdriver from the toolbox. She has to actually do it by climbing a cart to reach the top of the shelf because she's a little too short to reach it by herself. She opens the toolbox, very, very similar to how in Resident Evil 7, Village, you're opening very...
so you have to get a lockpick to unlock the toolbox, to get the screwdriver out of the toolbox, and then use it for whatever you need to use it for. Flaming out. So there's just one... Oh, my God.
Various kinds of boxes, right? And there are things inside there. Lo and behold, the screwdriver's in there, so she goes back to where the fuse is. She gets the fuse, and then she returns to the area where the fuse needs to be put in, I believe, and I think she reinserts it to restore power. And then that's when, once again, she's ambushed by the creature that's been chasing her. And then that's where the video...
That's just classic. Just when you think you're at the exit, you're about to escape, you think, finally I can get out of this place. No, the boss, the creature always comes in and just... that's just classic. It's just obvious. It sounds very, very predictable. Do you know what I mean?
Video ends. It's about 15-ish minutes long. Then once the trailer's over, there's a quote that I think is kind of indicative of the themes they're going for this game. So the quote is as follows. This is merely the overture to our darkest symphony. Which I think in the context of the Requiem subtitle, there's going to be contrasting sort of themes between life and death and this and light, I think, in tying back to the gameplay where we really have to navigate these dark areas through using a lighter. The demo ends there, but there's actually a small encore segment. And I think this is going to be a massive reveal once people find out what this is about. But basically, if you're playing the game and you go into the option screen, at any point during gameplay, you will be allowed to switch the game into third-person mode. So there's the question.
What? I want to hear that again. Sorry. But what?
Any point during gameplay, you will be allowed to switch the game.
Hang on.
If you're playing the game and you go into the option screen, at any point during gameplay, you will be allowed to switch the game into third-person mode.
Yes.
So there's the question, is Resident Evil Requiem a first-person game? That's correct. However, it is also correct to say that it is a third-person game because you can freely, at any point during gameplay, switch between the two perspectives. Mid-gameplay or before starting the game.
So it's got an option, so you can do both. So it's not just a first-person game; it's a third-person as well. So you got the option to choose whichever one you prefer. I like it. I like it.
So what they showed was the shifting of the perspective. So it starts in first person. They go into the option screen. They select third person. They exit the option screen, and that's when the camera, I think it backs up a little bit, if I remember correctly, and Grace is in like almost her entire body appears, toward the left side of the screen, similar to the perspective of Resident Evil Village's third person mode. We only caught a short glimpse of it, and we were not allowed to record videos. So I would have to go back and look really closely if the perspective is indeed like mirroring what they did with Village, or if it's more like RE2 or RE3. But I suspect it's based on what they did with Village's third person mode. And I think the creature appears again at the end, and then Taylor cuts out. So yeah, this is that's the trailer as far as I can remember it based on my notes. There might be one or two details I might have left out. I'm not sure if Capcom themselves are going to release this footage. I hope they do, because it's really interesting. But I think it was a very interesting look at what to expect from Resident Evil Requiem.
That's fascinating, man. Thank you for sharing that so well in depth. I have so many questions that I want to dig into, but first I just want to know now your overall thoughts as a longtime Resident Evil fan. What did you think? Are you excited?
Well, I mean, every new Resident Evil game will be an exciting sort of thing in one way or another. But my biggest impression watching this and coming out of it is that it really looks like you're playing Resident Evil 7 again. Like there aren't a lot of enemies, or there's only one enemy rather in this specific area. You're exploring narrow hallways. You're trying to find fuses. You have to look throughout the environment for clues. In this specific hospital segment of the game,
so that hospital segment, it's about Grace just trying to escape the hospital because she's been strapped upside down or whatever she is, and she's trying to get out of the bloody place. So yeah,
there are no wide areas, right? Everything is narrow and a little bit claustrophobic. I mean, if I didn't know any better, like I would have like assumed they inherited the animations and the movement system that was used back in Resident Evil 7, because it really felt very familiar. And knowing that they share the same director, like I really don't think that's a coincidence. Like Village was also first
sorry, I
person,
didn't mean to hit my mic.
but I think that was a little more panned out because the environments were a lot larger in general and subsequently less detailed. But this game, yeah, like we're looking at some of the darkest environments we've seen in the series. A lot of emphasis on the contrast between light and dark. But the gameplay loop is obviously very much, I think, going to be familiar to Resident Evil fans. Like you're finding items, you're finding keys. Indeed, like in the demo, I forgot to mention this, but there is a door you unlock with a key. So that's
a classic,
obviously in there.
I feel there'd be a lot of that.
Of some sort.
Always is.
Defend yourself against monsters. I don't specifically remember if Grace can use the defending mechanic that the blocking mechanic that Ethan could use in Village and RE7. It might have been in there, but the gameplay portion was quite quick, and the combat was. They only showed brief moments of it, so I'd have to go back and see if she can block hits or whatnot. But she definitely, when she gets attacked, that monster takes a huge chunk out of her shoulder. But yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. Like I think Capcom is intentionally.
I wish you could show some footage. That'd have been nice.
Showing
You know
as
what I mean?
little of the game as possible, and I'm honestly not sure if that's a good thing or not. Because given what we know about the game, there has to be more to it than what they're showing us at the moment. But I'm really excited to see what they come up with next.
That's fantastic. I was going to say, the way you're explaining it, it sounds exactly like Resident Evil 7 2.0. Up until you said that you can actually go to third person, which is amazing. That's what everybody wanted. a choice, you know.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah,
opens
it
the door to
is.
VR as well. Being in first, they did that with 7. They did it with Village.
And I'm so glad that they're bringing that and then having that as an option. I really am all for that.
They did it with 4. So there's an opportunity for everybody to get what they want, except for us fixed camera angle fans. But that's okay. I moved on. But no, it sounds very dark, very gritty, very much like Resident Evil 7. So if you enjoyed 7, it's going to be like visually, kind of mechanically, it's going to be very much in line. And like you said, that makes a lot of sense with the same director. And it sounds.
There's my thoughts on Resident Evil 7. I think it was more. I just can't wait to get this done. Do you know what I mean? Did you feel that way about Resident Evil 7? Did you feel that way? Like, Resident Evil 7 is like, yeah, okay, I'm playing it, but I just can't wait just to get it done, just so that I complete it. But I don't really have any desire really to go back to it. You know, for replayability for Resident Evil 7, no, not really. But I will be playing it on my horror channel that I've started. You know, where it's just going to be horror games. At the moment, I'm playing through Resident Evil, Director's Cut, Resident Evil, Resident Evil 1 Remake, and I'm currently playing through Resident Evil 2 Remake on my channel. At the moment, I'm playing through all the Resident Evil games on my. It's called Survivor of Horror. I will link it in the description box below if you want to check it out. But yeah, it's a brand new channel, so I ain't got a lot of subscribers, or it's only got one. But you know, it's a new channel that I've started, and yeah, just dedicated to horror games. So if you want to check that out, I'll put the link in the description box below. But yeah,
sounds like, you know, you didn't see any weapons other than just melee, right? That you hold the lighter, you throw the bottle.
The empty bottle, yes, the empty glass bottle, for that matter, is the only weapon that I remember seeing in the game. It is unclear if Grace can use firearms or melee weapons based on what we saw in the demo.
Yeah, and you
I
know,
think very, very clearly they're going for the hapless kind of helpless.
yeah,
You know, Joe Schmo. Well, not Joe Schmo in this case. Like
your everyday
pretty
person.
much what Ethan was.
Yeah,
Your everyday person, right?
yeah. An everyday person
So-
just trying to escape.
Yeah, like I think if you're
It's almost
into
like EA,
that
name it.
slow, methodical, Resident Evil exploration-focused gameplay with de-emphasized combat and a focus on jump scares, foreboding environments, I think you're going to enjoy it a lot. If you come from the side where you played RE4 Remake recently, for example, and you really enjoy the pure gameplay combat that the series has become known for, this demo will not have what you want. But that doesn't necessarily mean Capcom won't reveal it later. I think there are a lot of rumors about the scale of Resident Evil Requiem and what other characters might actually be playable in the game. And if those rumors do end up being true, even to some extent, I imagine that this isn't the only gameplay style that we're going to see in Resident Evil Requiem.
yeah, it could be very much. I mean, it's the same director as 7, but it could be like Village, where we have the majority of the game as Ethan. You think it's Ethan, but then you switch over to Chris. We don't know. Did you get any hint during this that there would be any other characters that would show up or you would play as? Any Easter eggs, anything like that?
Not at all.
Okay.
It's really, yeah. If you didn't know about any of the rumors were floating around there before seeing this, you would probably think that Grace is the only playable character. I have my own theories as to what may happen, if you want to talk about them, but it seems very much focused on her for the time being.
Yeah, I think for this, we'll focus just on the demo, but if you would like to come back to discuss theories, we could go on for a long time about that. There's a lot we could get into.
I mean, Yeah, like knowing the director Nakanishi, just as a side, he's actually like a friend of mine. So
Yeah,
we meet up every now and then and have like fun
crazy.
chats about like gameplay theory and story and whatnot. Aside from Resident Evil, but if you think about Revelations and RE7, those two games tend to jump between timelines. Even like if
Yeah.
you remember in Revelations, there are some parts where you're in the present day, and then you jump back a year to see what happened in the past, and you went back into the current timeline
And
with that kind of
previously,
context with you. And then in RE7, you had the videotapes with Mia and
He does do that a lot.
Clancy, I think.
I hope that in this game it doesn't do that. I hope it doesn't go like you play a segment, you get to the end, and it says, right then previously this happened, and then you're in a different timeline, and then you play out that portion, and then it goes previously, like in Revelations, because that kind of it's okay, but it just got a bit repetitive after a while.
Was the other character. Like, I think if I had to guess, even if Grace, for whatever reason, ended up being the only protagonist, like, I can see there being a similar mechanic where you find a videotape or a file or whatnot, and then you jump back in time and play as somebody else.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that Raccoon City is going to be in the game.
Yeah.
Right, I think it would be a bit of a lost opportunity not to have
Raccoon
some
City.
kind of a flashback, particularly with like Alyssa Ashcroft, the character from Outbreak.
I think that would be our safest bet, is the other character would be a flashback to her mother and the stories would kind of intertwine. I mean, we don't know that, but that would be a safe bet. All right, now there's a few questions about the gameplay. We've established that it's basically like Resident Evil 7.0, just better graphics. You said that the ambiance and the sound effects are there. How about the music? Did you hear any music?
So, I don't think there was music in the sense that we understand it from like the classic Resident Evil games.
Yeah, any sound design?
I don't think there was music. If there was, it was obviously like ambient music that would blend into the background and isn't inherently memorable in and of itself. I think it was just effects, the rain in the background, footsteps, the screeching and the roaring of that creature that chases Grace.
Like 7, just like 7. 7 had
Yeah,
that. It was
pretty much
all
like
ambiance
7.
into the save room. Yeah,
exactly like 7.
Yeah,
as far as I can remember.
Okay, that's exciting to know. What was your initial thoughts when you seen first person? Did you think, hey, there's going to be an option for third, or are you like, oh, this is it, this is what we're doing?
I think it's really hard to answer that question, to be honest, because the rumors out there were very prevalent about the game being in third person, and like if you look at like what Village did, it almost seemed like the third person DLC was them kind of walking back on first person, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the remakes being generally like the remakes of 2 and 4 being, higher sellers and, higher rated games. I would have assumed that Capcom would have wanted to transition back into third person for the next big Resident Evil game.
Okay, that's right. I'm going to have to leave it there for now. If you want to check out the whole video, I will link it in the description box below. But, so there's some pretty cool things there. What I was going to say is that I like the fact that we have an option to switch between first person and third person, so there's an option. So I think that's really cool, and so that's really cool to have like the switch, being able to switch between first person and third person. I think that's really cool, and there's a lot of stuff here, and like I say, they're only this was only focusing on like the hospital segment with Grace, so that's not talking about the whole game. So anyway, I'm gonna leave that there because this video is already 50 minutes long already, and yeah. Wow. So what's your thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now. Cheers. Peace. Matt. Peace.